The latest polling is able to marshal the 50% plus one. Do you foresee that such fragmentation across board in as far as coalition building is concerned could force us into a presidential runoff come 2027? There
will be no presidential runoff, Fred, and I can tell you. And before I tell you what's happening in Naivasha and what I would see happening in the future, I want to call out Joe for calling my party leader, Gachagua, Mr. Shares. And on the same statement, even before he moves on, claims that he will go and negotiate something for his people. With what? What are you going to negotiate to your people with? Just, you cannot continue crucifying a man who just asked something for his people. And he have already told us that he will go and ask and negotiate for the Ukambani people if he is on the table. That is exactly what they crucified him for. It is very hypocritical to assume that he is not allowed to say anything about his people, but everybody else in the country is allowed to say something for his people. Let's leave that. In Naivasha, I can tell you there will be a lot of trouble there. We've seen what's happening in terms of how they are negotiating and how they are, they've been saying. We've started with Ngombe Nusu and all those kind of things, the clarion call and demands from ODM, and now we're here. But the issue of the deputy, or what I call the running mate for the president, will be a hot potato for them. So as much as they are looking into what's going to happen at the United Alternative Government, let's also look at what's going to happen in their own house as well. Yesterday, we had a walkout from those members of parliament from the mountain region because they will be questioned by the people they are intending to bring into the table as far as support is concerned on what happened, and a seat of deputy president was removed and reassigned to another person. This is something that is definitely giving the president a hard time, whether they accept it or not, in regards to how to allocate the seat of the deputy president. Because it is actually now going to confirm to the people of the mountain that they have nothing in that government. And they were trying to, bring in the narrative of Mount Kenya East and Mount Kenya West. There's nothing like that. And I am also telling the current deputy president, be careful, because can happen. And you know what can happen? It can also be written somewhere that immediately after, a defense has been successful, which we know it will not, you are going to be kicked out, just like the other one who was kicked out. There's nothing that cannot happen. But in terms of alignment, the numbers thereof, it's only someone, and I'm sitting in between. I'm sandwiched by former members of parliament and current member of parliament. People who understand and who have been into an election and won. And they know what took them to win was numbers. So they would not have won that election if the numbers in the ballot did not accumulate to a winning, to the majority, what I would call the majority vote. That is what is going to happen in this country. That's why I'm telling you there will be no runoff. The clarion call from the United Alternative Government, when you see the likes of Sifuna agitating and everybody, when you see Kalonzo Musyoka, when you see my party leader Rigathi Gachagua and all that, when you see all those people, eventually they will have to agree. And when I was here, I remember I told you, last time we were with you here on the table, I told you the call behind that particular joint ticket for a single flag bearer from all the, what I would call the opposition agitating members is not theirs. It's not the principal's call. It is Kenyan call, because Kenyans want to present a singular candidate as a flag bearer against William Ruto. Because Kenyans has one particular intention and agitation to send this government home. Finally, and the numbers are telling it, because in terms of regional marshalling. You need to also look at that. But I think those who want to live in denial can continue doing it until it happens. That is what happened in 2022, when the then deputy president was having, the numbers on his side, but the government was also in denial. And they talked of deep state and many other things, and he beat them. As much as the margin was slim, they were beaten. That is the same thing that is going to happen here. Only that this time around the margin will be wider. But I need to also mention one thing as I wind up on this one. I've had Senator Mungatana congratulate the president for bringing in the issue of 2060. Now they are, they are removing the Hasra thing and putting in 2060 vision there. I don't want to go into the details because that is not the topic of the day, but I need to ask a very simple question. What happened to Vision 2030? Where are we with Vision 2030? Can we first go there and realize what it is, those men and women? Senator Mungatana was in Kibaki's team. They seem that they never learned anything from that. Vision 2030, what happened to it?
All right.
If we would be able to account for what happened to Vision 2030 and then calculate the gains thereof and what it is that we've not been able to gain, we can be able to build from that particular vision now that we are already there. We have found ourselves in 2030. Now that we are already there, can we be told that this is what we are building from? But I agree with him on one particular thing in regards to the formula of development there, because once we do a devolved funds in 15% of the nation, whatever is left is what is being misused. If we can be able to have a formula that is constitutionally, agreeable, I would be happy to see that now. What is left in the national government, it is still constitutionally being, devolved or being sent into development. And that means most of the regions that have been left undeveloped, like my constituency in Nyandarua called Ndaragwa, will be developed.
All right. Senator, I respond to that
right to respond.
Very briefly, because our time is